Well, good afternoon, everybody. I am coming to you from New Hope Free Methodist Church. My name is Scott Sittig. I serve as the lead pastor at New Hope Free Methodist Church. And today I am privileged to be on screen here with Princesse Nabintu-Kabaya, a member at New Hope Free Methodist Church, and a couple of friends of hers and now mine, Angelique, Tantabara, and Freddy Taniki. And we are going to be talking with you today and dialoguing about a growing crisis that has emerged and not very many people are talking about, except from within the Banyamulenge community, a crisis that is really growing into the beginnings of a genocide against the Banyamulenge people. And what we'd like to do is to raise awareness and tell the story and hopefully invite you to get involved, both by raising awareness, maybe contacting your local legislators, trying to generate aid or support, and in any other ways that we can creatively to think of ways that we might get involved. And so I am going to facilitate a conversation here. I'm largely going to be listening along with the rest of you and learning what I can learn. And I am grateful for anybody, all of you who are tuning in today and listening or tune in. So thank you. And I'm going to now just give an opportunity for each of the participants to introduce themselves. There will be some translations, so we will be talking both in multiple languages here, and I'm very grateful for that. So why don't we just start? Princesse is a member at New Hope Free Methodist Church. Princesse, why don't you start, and then you can help introduce the other two.
Well, thank you, Pastor Scott, for having us here, especially for this very specific discussion about the ongoing crisis happening in Eastern DRC. My name is Princesse Nabintu-Kabaya, and I'm here with my friends Freddy Taniki and Angelique Tantabara. I'm gonna give them a chance to tell them about themselves. So Freddy, why don't you go first?
Thank you very much. I'm very happy for this opportunity to raise awareness of this specific issue going on in Eastern Congo. My name is Freddy Taniki. I'm a member of the Free Methodist Church. My late dad was a pastor in the Free Methodist Church in the Congo, and I'm also a member of the African ministries within the Free Methodist Church. I live in Alaska, where I work, and I'm very excited to be part of this discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Freddy. Thank you for being here. Angelique?
Thank you for inviting me to be on this discussion. I am happy to be invited. I know some on the phone, but I didn't know everybody on the like face to face. As you said, my name is Angelique Tantabara. I live in Manitoba, Winnipeg, Canada. And when I was back home, Congo, I was Methodist too, Free Methodist. So when you invite me, I was so happy to feel like I'm going to talk to Pastor Methodist in this country. New language, new face, but we have a God who is one. Thank you, guys. Yeah.
Amen, and that's right. Back to you, Scott.
Amen. No, I am so grateful, and it is so wonderful to meet part of the Free Methodist family around the globe. We've been so privileged to meet so many that have come to us at New Hope, but so grateful that we are meeting many more around the globe right now, and really the Banyamulenge are becoming spread out around the globe, aren't you? I mean, it's all of you, some Alaska and Winnipeg. It's like, wow, amazing. So, well, we could spend a long time getting to know each other, and that's not exactly why we're here. I do hope we will have some time to do that one day and really get to know each other more personally. But I do want to spend our time in a focused way, just telling the story of what's happening. So Freddy, I might just turn to you and ask you for some details if you can. Just try to help paint a picture, maybe offering some sense of the scale statistically of what's happening, who's involved, but just give us a little bit about the geography, the region, and if you could just kind of share the overview right now of the picture of what's happening in the DRC. I think that would give everybody a good framework from which to have the rest of this discussion. So I'll turn it to you.
Thank you very much, Pastor Scott. So the Banyamulenge live in Eastern Congo. Congo is in Central Africa. It's a very big country. And our tribe lives in on the high plateau, really high mountain, high altitude, about 150 kilometers from the border to Burundi and Rwanda. The Banyamulenge have settled in what is called South Kivu province, which is that Eastern Congo, starting 1804 in different waves, 1804, 1820, and later on in 1870. Mainly, the waves were due to looking for pastures for their cattle. We are cattle keepers, and that's our main activity, if not our only activities. So because of that livestock, people moved from area to area. You understand at that point, there were no countries in Africa. There were just different kingdoms in different areas. So it's our understanding that some of our grandparents came from Burundi, some came from Tanzania, and some came from Rwanda. And they settled in Eastern Congo. Another wave came in 1859 due to some violence in the king. There were some conflicts in the kingdom of Rwanda, and a part of that kingdom flee from that specific king, and because of that, some of those people migrated towards what will later become Congo. So that whole migration was way before the split of Africa into different countries that happened in the Berlin Conference in 1885. So by the time Africa was divided into countries, Banyamulenge were in the Congo. It's well documented in many books of Belgian books prior to independence or during colonization. So when Congo was under the Belgian colony, the Banyamulenge were part of the many tribes in Eastern Congo or in the entire Congo. Towards the end, during independence, Congo went through some civil unrest, and there was a split between the neighboring tribes that went into the rebel group, and the Banyamulenge sided with the government. That was the first official war that is called the Mulele. The chair or the instigator of that war was named Pierre Mulele, and so that war is called the War of Mulele. This is 1964 through 1968. At that point, the conflict began. Prior to that, there were very minor conflicts between people who cultivate the land and people who are cattle keepers. There are always those conflicts, but nothing major nothing to the extent of killing each other, burning villages, or anything to that magnitude. So around in 1964 through 1968, during the War of Mulele, politically it was between the rebel groups and the government. However, the way it pictured itself in that region, it was more the Banyamulenge that sided with the government and the other tribes that sided with the Mulele. And at that point, the conflict became really deep. And from then, we were labeled Rwandese. We were labeled that we did not belong to Congo. We were not citizens because we are Tutsi and we look like the Tutsis in Rwanda, which is something that doesn't really make sense, because there are Tutsi in Burundi, there are Tutsi in Rwanda, there are Tutsi in northern Kivu, there are Tutsis called Hema in Ituri, and Tutsi have different names. In Uganda, there are Tutsis, they have different name. In Kenya, there are Maasais who are Tutsi, or what you call Nilotics. And so that became, the conflict started there. And so we, but the conflicts were, after that war ended in 1968, there was a relative peace until 1994, after the genocide in Rwanda. All the Hutus and the former regime in Rwanda that crossed the border into Congo, they started killing Tutsis in the Congo. They started killing the Banyamulenge. We couldn't travel anymore, or you go into a public bus, they stop the bus, they pull you out because you look like you look different. You are from a tribe that looks like the ones they were fleeing from in Rwanda. So they started killing. That's where my family died. Actually, they killed my father and 3 brothers the same day, because they just looked different from them. They were Tutsi, and so there are many stories of horrible things happening to people just because of what they look like or their faces. So that led to the war of 1996. And ever since, it has been war after war. We have never felt accepted, tolerated even, or we have not enjoyed the rights of citizens in that country. We feel like we are just a patch that's attached to Congo, but we're not part of the social tissue of Congo. This current crisis started in April. This current crisis started in April 2017 in Bijombo, which is in Uvira territory, between just 2 local chiefs, the local chief of Banyamulenge and the local chief of Bafulero, and it escalated. At the beginning, it started like something just between 2 villages, but little did we know that it was very well planned. It was a systematic plan to kill, burn villages, loot all the cows, and burn the fields. They usually cultivate corn and beans, and put fire on everything that can help them come back to live in those villages anymore again. So for the last 4 years, they have burned 325 villages, and 315,000 cows have been looted or killed. we have 160,000 people displaced. Some are in Kenya, Uganda, Rwanda, Burundi, and some are in refugee camps, internally displaced camps. So there are very few villages of the Banyamulenge that are left, mainly in Minembwe. Every other place, they live in refugee camp next to MONUSCO, which is the United Nations peacekeeping mission to protect them. So people who were living in their country, in the land, and live on their own, cultivate, lead a healthy life, are now confined in these refugee camps, live under tents, and protected by the UN. The fight is mainly between the Mai groups that are from the neighboring tribes against the Banyamulenge. And because we didn't have any militia group or any armed group, at the beginning, our village burned at a very, very high rate, like 3 villages a day, 4 villages a week, here and there. And it sent so many people outside the country. Right now, there are more Banyamulenge outside Congo than there are inside Congo. And it's a very, very sad story. I just want to make sure I give these statistics. There are 60 local Free Methodist church that were burned to the ground. There are 19 districts that are completely displaced. Those places are inhabited anymore. No one lives there. There are 7,093 church members that have moved away from where they used to live, either moving outside the area or move completely outside the country. Those are Free Methodist church members. So these are just Methodist statistics, and I have a report from the superintendent Rusingizwa Bitebe of the High Plateau Conference. It's hard to imagine this on a bigger scale. I'm just giving statistics, but these are lives that are in danger. These are kids that don't go to school, hospitals that have been burned to the ground, churches, and so on. So I'm sure we will talk more. We will go more into details as we continue.
Freddy, I am overwhelmed by those numbers, and just so grateful for the history and the story. I've heard it a little bit over time, but I think for those who are listening in here, it's just so helpful to hear the context and how we got to where we are today. But those statistics are just heart-wrenching. And I think one of the things that I'd like to maybe give some more personal story here. Angelique, you just traveled to the region and are just returning from that region. So maybe tell us what you saw. Tell us what you actually, based on what Freddy said, I'd love to hear your personal story of what you saw. So I'm sure it's going to be hard to tell. Take your time.
Thank you, Pastor Scott. I'm gonna talk in my language because it's gonna be much easy for me.
Yeah, you go right ahead.
She can translate. Ngiye kuvuga ubu nyine nonaha ngiye kuvuga ibyo nabonye. Nshimiye Dr. Taniki uvuye kuvuga, Freddy uvuye kuvuga ibyo mwabashije kubara cyangwa se ibintu byose numvise wavuze igihe intambara zatangiriye cyangwa se igihe twageze muri Congo. Nshimye ko numvishije icyo gihe cyane, kandi n'abantu bamaze kugwa mu byabo, imibare n'ibyagiye byangirika. Sinzi ko mwene data azoza asobanura ngeze hagati cyangwa ni gute bimeze.
I'm grateful for the report given by Dr. Freddy, especially the history and the statistic of what they've gathered. I'm relying here with interpretation, but I'm also grateful to be able to share of what I've seen with my own eyes.
Thank you. Rero ndakomerezaho natekereje kuja gusura abantu b'iwacu cyangwa se gakondo. Nari mbimazemwo mu bitekerezo byari bimazemwo umwaka ndasinzira, kimwe nuko twumvishe ibyagiye biba twabibonye n'amaso, nubwo tubona bikeya ariko tutahageze. Je byambujije ibitotsi, nanigwa gusinzira, corona yinjiriramo. Ndavuga ngo corona ubwo bimeze gutyo, ubwo batangiye gukingura indege zikagenda, nubwo hazaba ibihano byinshi ariko nzagenda nubwo bisa gutya, kandi naraje ndabibona nyine ibyo bihano nka Canada yo ko turatangishwa hafi 2,000 z'amafaranga y'umuntu wasohotse muri corona akava mu gihugu no gushigwa mu kato, ariko ibyo byose ndabyirengagiza. Ikindi congeyeho kugenda hari mu ntambara, abantu barambwiraga tugiye hari mu ntambara nibaterwa uzapfana n'abandi. Reka mbanze ndeke usobanura aho urakoze.
So since this crisis began, I could not sleep because of what I was seeing. And so my heart did not rest because I just wanted to go and be with my people and see them. I was warned that if I went, I will die with them. I also was warned because of the pandemic, it wasn't easy to leave the country. However, when they started opening borders, I knew I just had to go. And so I left. Although I'm still paying for penalties here in Canada, we are charged of a fee for leaving a country during the pandemic. But all that is not compared to the peace I have now that I have seen.
Urakoze. Yego, navuze ngo nubwo mfite amahoro mu mutima, ariko amahoro nagize nukubageraho naje kababona. Suko nagize amahoro ngo baguwe neza. Nabonye ibintu bibabaje, andi mu gutangira kuvuga nkumva emosi, ariko nasenze Imana iragerageza kumfasha. Nabonye aho abantu twumva ngo imihana yarasenywe, kandi nageze ahantu henshi. Narangije Mibunda, nabonye Mikenke, nabonye Kamombo, bivuga ko na Mikarati, iyo ni imihana yose. Noneho mbanze ndeke mu Minembwe, iyo Minembwe yo niyo nari ndimwo ukwezi, hafi ukwezi kose. Aho hantu hose nta hantu hakiri inzu, kuko mwene data Dr. avuye kuvuga nta hantu hakiri inzu na hamwe, n'ibibanza bariko bagenda bagasenya n'amabuye, imisingi ntaco kwereka ko hariho n'umusingi. Wosobanura aho tukagira hagufi hagufi.
So I visited quite a number of villages. Like Dr. Taniki shared, I've seen those villages that were destroyed. Even for those who had houses that were built with a nice foundation, they made sure those also were destroyed, so no families were to come back. I visited, she mentioned some of the very popular villages that we all know, like Mibunda, Mikenke, and others. All of those are destroyed and empty. And she was also able to spend time with the people in the center of Minembwe.
Urakoze. Aho niho ngeze mu Minembwe, narahageze. Ijambo rya mbere ryantangaje, nubwo nifuzaga kuhagera, nagiye mfite ibintu bibiri mu mutima biremereye cyane. Numvaga umutima wanje umbwira ngo genda, ico nico cari ca mbere, genda ukandagire ku butaka bwa Minembwe, nawe ubone ivyo abandi babonye, vyibuze ubaheze na pole. Ikindi ca kabiri cari mu mutima wanje harimwo ishavu, numvaga kubabona bizantera kurira cane cyangwa ngasa n'ubagemuriye agahinda, ariko ivyo vyose Imana yarabimfashijemwo. Ikintu cantangaje nkitibutse ku kibuga c'indege, narangije aho binka ndahabura. Muzi inka zabaga mu Minembwe, mbanze ndeka abantu. Narangije aho binka ndahabura, ico kintu amaso narebesheje, naravuze ngo Mana, nuko kubaho kw'abantu ubwo bakiriho hagihumeka bakeya, reka tugerageze tubagereho noneho mbaganirize. Maze kubona abantu isura zarahindutse, haragerageza kwerekanwa amafoto, hari amwe natinye gushira aho ngaho. Isura zarahindutse kandi muri abo bantu harimo abari abayobozi b'amatorero, ubu nyine basenyewe iyo mihana yose yarimwo amatorero, kandi aho hose navuze niko hose twagiye tuhagera tuvuga ubutumwa cyangwa se dusenga Imana, ni mu mihana ba data na ba sogokuru na ba data wacu, ariko abo basaza n'abakecuru ubu nyine n'abana babo bari ku musozi kandi barasenze Imana. Nako gahinda kanteye mu mutima, tekereza ukuntu tuzadusenga Imana, ntekereza n'imirimo Imana yadukoreye, ndasantekereza abakozi b'Imana bari aho hantu bahambiririwe mu kanogo kamwe, abakihari mu Minembwe, mu madegu ya Minembwe.
When I decided to go to Minembwe, I knew I had a heavy heart because I wanted to see my people and to share with their suffering, maybe to also comfort them with my words. But when I landed in Minembwe, I could not believe my eyes. For those who've been in Minembwe, you know what, when you land and you've seen the herd of cows and there was no sign of such a thing anymore. And then when you see the faces of people, the despair, the sorrow in their eyes, the way they've changed because of the hardship they've gone through. And like I said, all those villages that I visited, they were all villages that had churches, that had pastors. Some of them died, some of them are alive. And I could think of the God that we prayed in these mountains, the God that we save until today, and the sorrow and the hardship that we're going through.
Bimaze kugenda gutyo nahageze naganiriye na benshi n'uwo umuyobozi w'ito w'amatorero ya Methodist mwene data Taniki amaze kuvuga cyangwa se Freddy, twarabonanye twararamukanyije, ni ibintu ntagiye narateguye, wenda nibi byinshi biba narabimubajije, mbonana nawe. Baravuze ngo bihanganiye abagihari, bihanganiye gupfana n'abakirisitu, bari mu gusenyegwa mu mihana, hasigara umuhana mutoya akaba ariho bagenda bagaturamwo, urugo rumwe rukabamwo imiryango 5 cyangwa se irenga 5, kandi abo basanze nabo ntibakigira inka, ntibakigira umurima, ntibagira ico bambara, bose bakabaho ngaho, ariko gusa ico bategereje ni ukutegereza ubushake bw'Imana, kuko bagira amasezerano kuri kiriya gihugu. Naho ku bindi bifatika bigaragara ntibafite ico barya, ntibafite aho bakora ku rufaranga, naho nico bambara, ntibafite amatungo, itungo ritoya ni inkoko ntaryo nabonye.
So the God they have saved and the love they have for this country, they still believe on the promises that God will come and rescue them. Right now, they are living off of nothing. After villages are burned, they move to the next village where it's somewhat safe, and 5 families are sharing a tiny home where they have no expectation of where food will come from, where clothes will come from. They no longer have their cattle or farms. And I had not seen anything, not even chickens, because that's what they used to have, the hens and all. And so it's only for the faith of what they believe in, and that's what it's sustaining them.
Naganiriye na benshi, nganira n'abayobozi b'amatorero, nganira ntabwo nahagarariye muri Methodist gusa, kuko amatorero yacu yagiraga ubumwe. Nicatumye ndateranira muri Methodist, umunsi nateranye bwa mbere muri Kadesi, hari ikiriyo, terana muri Kadesi. Ubwa kabiri, icumweru ca kabiri, mu yindi Kadesi hakurya bari bafite igiterane, niwo muhana nari ntuyemo, noneho mfatiranya bose kubasurira hamwe. Ariko mukuri guhari, iyo babona bari mu itorero barasenga kandi biziringiye gusa Imana yonyine, kuko aho abantu harashize bagiye bapfusha abasore, bapfusha abasaza, bapfusha abakecuru, bapfusha abana, mu buryo bwose, mu ngero zose zitandukanye. Bitewe n'izo ntambara, abakecuru bariko bahira mu bisambu bahunze, Sorry.
If you've seen these men when they worship or praise in the church, they've lost their young men, they've lost elder men who were burnt in the bushes while trying to flee for their lives. And you watch them still clinging to this God they love so much, and how helpless they are.
Ya, ibyo bintu birambabaza cyane. No tekereza hari ikintu nabazaga umutima wanje namaraga kugera mu icumbi aho ndyama nijoro. Ikintu nabashije kugira ni ibitotsi, kuko nari maze umwaka ntasinzira. Narabwiye Imana ngo Mana, niyo urupfu rwantungura none singapfe ntarakandagira mu Minembwe. Ni ukuri nagezeyo ndasinzira, nirirwaga mbabaye, kirirwa ndira mbareba tuganira, ariko mbwira ngasinzira, nkagenda ngasenga Imana nkavuga Mana, ndagushimiye ko nakandagiye nanje kuri ubu butaka. Kuko hari ikintu nani narabwiye Imana ngo Imana ntikareke hagira icomba ntaragera kuri ubutaka bw'imuhira. Ikintu kindi nabonye, kubera inzara abantu abarwayi bose uri mu kubona amasura, bagize intambara, amasasa baca hejuru buri munsi, bagahunga badafite aho baje. Naho bahaye baja bose abasigaye bari mu Minembwe mu madegu ntibafite aho baja, aho bari. Ni igitondo kimwe gusa Imana iracabatije ubuzima, kuko Imana igira imbaraga n'ubutware. Bariko bararibwa n'inzara ariko n'uburyo bw'umutekano ntawo bafite. Hari ukuntu abantu bazaribwa n'inzara aho bahungiye, mukavuga ngo mutegereje, mwahunze noneho muri mu mutekano, mutegereje ko imyaka izera, nubwo hatoboneka babunganira ngo babagaburire, mukarya ubusa, ariko mutegereje mufite amahoro. Aho bari naho nta mahoro n'ubu. Ikintu natangariye, abadamu bari mu gusohoka hanze bagiye no gutora inkwi, bagafatwa ku nguvu. Abadamu abakecuru b'imyaka irenga 50 bagafatwa ku nguvu. Abakobwa abana b'imyaka iri munsi y'icumi n'ingahe bagafatwa ku nguvu. Urugero rwose. Habaye ibintu bikomeye, abasore basohoka bwije yagenda ari wenyine, akabura bwaca bagatora intumbi.
The things that are happening are really indescribable. Angelique began by saying how she had asked God to keep her safe until she sees the homeland, Minembwe. And one thing that God granted her was sleep. She would spend all day watching these despair faces and cry with them, pray with them, but God gave her sleep. So she was able to sleep by the grace of God. But also things like women from age 18 to 50 years old being raped when they run left to right to try and find something to eat. Young men who would go out and go missing, and the next day they find dead bodies of them. And there's one thing to say that, you know, you are concentrated in this center of Minembwe and you are protected, and maybe the crops will grow and tomorrow there will be peace. But there's no such a thing for the Banyamulenge. They are there for the grace of God. It's per Angelique's words, God is still just granting them life. It's a matter of time that if nothing is done, they could all end up dead. Either hunger, no place to sleep, or by just these rebel militias.
Ibyo nabonye sinabona uko mbisobanura. Umwana w'uruhinja w'iwacu yari ataranywa igikoma, ariko nagiye aho nateraniye, nabonye umubyeyi umwe asohora ibebero ngo agiye kugaburira umwana, amuheza igikoma. Sinamenye aho agahinda kavuye n'amarira. Aho abasaza iwacu muzi ko abasaza bacu bari batunzwe n'amata, ariko muri ayo mafoto naboherereje hariho bamwe bari bahaye bafata igikoma. Narebye mubona afashijeho bakeya nahaye isukari, byanteye agahinda guhagarara imbere y'abasaza ba sogokuru ngo ko ndabaheza igikoma ifu amata y'ifu ngo banywe amata ibiro 2 n'isukari ibiro 2 ngo ndebe ukuntu baye bashima birambabaza nari mfite n'agahinda ko kubatumiza gusa ngo baze mbibahe ibyo bintu birambabaza kuko mu buzima ntabwo twabayeho gutyo kandi nareba nkabona ntaco bacumuye ku bandi bantu no ku Mana twese mu isi ntitwavuga ngo turi abakiranutsi ariko tugerageza kubaho nk'abandi bantu kubona babujijwe uburenganzira bw'umuntu bwo kubaho kuva bari abana mwumvishije bamwe ba sekuru mwumvishije ko twagize ibibazo kuva muri mu 1964 ico gihe nico ikibazo catangiye kugeza n'uno munsi ngo ndebe mpagaze imbere y'abasaza na papa yapfuye muri 1996 nawe yapfuye atetswe na murumuna we baguye inganje ngo ndebe icyambabazaga ni ukubona kuva urwo rugendo rwose isheni y'abantu baye bagenda bapfa noneho bageze no ku mwisho wo kubabuza gutwika n'imyaka yabo bahinze bakabatwikira n'amazu bari batuyemo ubuho habaye nk'itsembatsemba mbere barazaga bakabatera ariko bwaca bigatura bikamara iminsi bagasaba bakagaruka aho bari batuye ariko ubu nyine hariho gahunda yo kubarangiza.
My own father and my own uncle died in the same way many years ago. And this is the same story that we are still talking about. It was sad for me to watch an elderly Banyamulenge man thank and be so thankful for just receiving a cup of porridge. These are people who have always been self-sustained by their own crops, farms, and their own cows, and milk from their own cows. It was just a sad thing for me to watch and see that they are just being deprived of a simple thing to live. They may not be perfect people, but they deserve to live.
Ikindi canejeje mu ruhande rumwe nuko nasanze bagisenga Imana. Ico kintu caramfashije kirampumuriza. Kuko iyo wateranaga nabo mu itorero barateranaga ukibaza aba ni babandi bagira bwa buzima hanze wareba ukuntu banezererewe Imana niho nakuye icizere ndavuga ngo ni ukuri nubwo duhaye dupfa tugeze hagati kurangira ariko kubw'isezerano ry'Imana ati tuzarangira n'ivyishimo bariko bishimira Imana.
One thing that comforts me today is the faith that I've seen in them. When I saw them worship in services, when they gathered together, I sometimes wondered, are these the same suffering people that are worshiping and so thankful for the Lord? And because of that, it still gives me hope as well.
Yeah, kubera ico nabayeyo mu madegu ibyumweru 3 mu Minembwe nakwije ibyumweru 3 ndataha. Natekerezaga ko hari naravuze ngo kugenda kwanje nagiye ntekereza ngo se ngiye kumara iki ngiye gukora iki ariko reka ngende mpagere gusa noneho ukora ubushobozi bukeya nari njanye nk'umuntu nahagararaga imbere yabo ngavuga ngo iki ni iki nazanye natekereza ubuzima twe turimwo ibintu bidaterurwa ngo bijanwe natekereza ko twe turya tukanywa turi mu mahoro turasinzira ndavuga nuko Imana izaba turindira cyangwa izatanga ubundi buryo bidaturutse ku maboko yanje. Maze gutekereza kugaruka narebye kandi kurira indege ngo nsubire nurira indege ntahe mukuri mbabwije ukuri turi hano nageze ku kibuga c'indege ndahagarara ndavuga ngo siku nyine ndatashe siza abandi muri ubu buzima umutima wanje ntiwabimpamirizaga igihe nagiye abantu baye bambwira ngo ngiye ni mu ntambara hateye ubwoba kurya nagiye nta bwoba mfite niko nagarutse numva ntabishaka iwabo h'umuntu harakomeye.
Some of the picture you see, Angelique was able to gather her own money as an individual and was able to distribute some food. Although it's hard to describe because it was just like a drop in the ocean. And so when it was time to come back at the airport, Angelique was not able to board the flight, although she ended up coming back, but wondering, really, is this my life so valuable that I have to leave all these children, these women, and go to my comfort zone?
Nubwo twabahorahozaga, nubwo nabaganirizaga, nagerageje kuganira n'abantu bose ibyo byumweru bitatu. Hari umunsi umwe, hari iminsi imwe ntagaza mbona n'umwanya wo kwibrosa ubucuku mu gitondo, brosada mu gitondo, kageza 2:00 z'ijoro kirimo mvuga, nabyutse mu gitondo nicaranye n'abantu. Aho narindi bararuhaga bakambwira tuzameneka umutwe, uzarwara, kabwira aho nico canzanye. Sinaje mu kintu co kuvuga ngo naje kurengwa, naje kugira gute, no, naje kuganira n'abantu. Bakeneye habe na counseling, niyo tutabona n'amafaranga. Bakeneye amasengesho, bakeneye counseling, bakeneye noneho n'ibifatika byose. Murumva imibereho udafite ico urya, ntugira ico wambara, ntugira aho urara, ntugira amahoro y'akarere urimo, noneho wamara ugasubira kandi ukabura ugukansoringa ukubwira ngo sorry, ibi bizashira, ihangane. Burya iyo uhabwira undi muntu, nubwo utabuze inzira bizacamwo bishira, burya umuntu ni akamana gato, Imana nayo igendera muri bya bindi. Mu kuri guhari bishimiye kumbona, bishimiye kuko kuganira nanje, nubwo ntaco nariko nkora nyine gifatika gihambaye, ariko gusa no kugerayo tukababona, bamenye ko bari kumwe n'abandi bantu tubasengera kandi tukaba tukibatekereza.
It gave them so much hope to see me, that I'm sure. These people need so much, even counseling. They need someone to talk to. Angelique would spend from morning, sometimes with a lack of time to brush her teeth, and just talk, listen, comfort throughout the day. And so there's so much need, but also just showing up in any way has been so comforting to them.
Kuko bafite abana bakeneye ishuri, bafite abapfakazi badafite ico bambara, bafite abakecuru badafite ico barya, ntibafite aho batuye, kandi abo bose noneho ku bumwe, nkari amafoto naberetse y'abantu bose abona akoranye nabo, bagiye bava mu matorero yose atandukanye. Kuko nariko aho hari amafu ni abapfakazi. Urumva umupfakazi bariko bagenda bareba mu mihana abapfakazi bashasha muri ino myaka 3. Abo nibo nafashije. Bariya abandi nagize b'abakecuru n'aba twafashije b'igikoma, nabo tugira amashiga y'igikoni c'igikoma, nabo bavuye mu matorero atandukanye. Harimo abavuye muri Methodist, harimo abavuye muri Kadesi, harimo abavuye muri Sepak. Bose ni abakristu bagiye bava mu matorero atandukanye kuko bari mu muhano. Mwibutse ko twavuze ngo baraturanye noneho no mu mazu. Ku cyumweru gusa iyo bagiye gusenga niho bamenya ngo Methodist irasengera aha, Kadesi irasengera, ariko mu bindi bikorwa z'ubufasha noneho iyo ubafashije urafasha nyine ugahamagara urya barya bagenewe ikibazo ufite ibyo ushaka gukemura.
So when we're distributing help, these families, like we said, they're already living together. Yes, there are different church denomination, but like, for example, in Angelique's situation, some of the picture will show that she distributed food to widowed who just been widowed in the last 3 years with these crises, and also sugar and porridge to elderly. And these people are from all these churches. They just choose the ones that are really in need, and that's whom she was able to reach. Thank you so much, Angelique.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. That is so helpful to just know the firsthand perspective and very recent what you're seeing and the ways that you've been able to help. Yeah, just overwhelming to hear the stories. Princess, I wonder if you could just kind of tag along on some of the work that is being done. Angelique mentioned a few things that she was able to do, and I know as a people around the globe, you're trying to raise awareness and do some things. what do you know? What is happening in terms of support, aid, awareness? Tell us some of what you think is, or what you know is happening.
So on a broader level in the Banyamulenge community, we're able to give a monthly contribution towards these crises, towards buying porridge and food, and sometimes even care, like medical care, if we can save a life. But most of the time they end up dying because they are unable to leave the place where they've been shot or cut, with machetes and stuff. But the biggest need is that there is no help. No one else is doing anything besides the Banyamulenge community. Like, we've cried, but sometimes it's like no one is hearing you. And so you find that the little that's getting to this individual is really coming from their own families and relatives. And people are encouraged to give, but some families have even a bigger burden when they have their own, mothers or grandparents. And I have my own grandmas and my aunties. They're all still isolated in these areas. And many times they tell us how, we need that porridge, we're running out. We contribute on a broader level, but also still support the very close ones to us.
It has always amazed me, and one of the members of our small group is a member of the Banyamulenge, and he shared with us recently how he's taken on a second job, maybe it was even a third job, to help raise some support just to be able to send some money back to Africa. And it's not as if all the needs are being met here, like I know families are struggling here in America. So, not only are you're struggling, many families here, but you're sending money back to help those who are probably even in worse situations. And yeah, that whole communal, everybody's going to take care of everybody else is such a rich model biblically and theologically, as well as just corporately as a humanitarian way of living. So so not much else happening, and that's partly why we're here to talk a little bit. I wonder, I don't know, Dr. Taniki, if you are there, if we could kind of come back to you, or anybody can kind of chime in on this particular question, and that is, what are some things beyond just the humanitarian aid? What are some policies or some ways that we could help advocate to change the situation here? Give us some ideas of ways that we could be more engaged.
Right now, in the immediate needs are more humanitarian than anything, but also raising awareness so that whoever can have influence on the government, the Congo government, to intervene so that this crisis can end. I don't think it's a matter of policies in the Congo, because all we are asking is the right to live. We're not asking power sharing, participation in the politics or government or anything. We're just asking for the right to live. And this is not something that can be addressed in the policies, because policies are there. The law is there. There are books of law in the Congo. There is a constitution that gives us the right to citizenship and right to protection by the government, but none of this is being enforced. So again, I don't think it's a matter of policy. There's just the absence of state or authority in the Congo. And so to me, I think that raising awareness, the US government has so much power and can influence African countries, including Congo. So helping in that manner to put responsibility and to make the Congolese government accountable, so that the army can protect the Banyamulenge community rather than the current collusion with the Mai Mai groups in serving them with ammunition and protecting them and helping them into finishing what they started. So basically, in the immediate, something that we need right away is humanitarian aid, because there are so many people that are displaced and do not have any other way or any other means to live by other than help from other people. The second is raising awareness. If everyone can raise awareness where they are, churches can help, governments can help, the UN. Our people are dying. However, what is so sad is that they're dying in a place that's so remote, so remote, and so they're dying in silence. No one is talking about it. Hundreds of people die and no radio, no newspaper, nothing. No one talks about it. And that's very sad. So any help to raise awareness would help as well.
Yeah.
Well, I think one of the things, oh, sorry, Princess, if you want to say something, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to add, raising awareness, and especially to these key decision makers. When our community around the world held a protest last week or so, we had a script, and I'm hoping that we can share within this recording for people who want to do the very minimal, but yet so big for us. And this script it only gives you a key decision maker individuals that you can tag on your social medias if you are a guru in that area, but also a call-in script. It's only 2 minutes. You take your time and you call in and you express this ongoing ethnic cleansing of the Banyamulenge that's so unspoken, but you've heard it from me, you've heard it from your friends Banyamulenge. That's all we are asking. If we get your money to help feed these individuals, the displaced ones, that would be great. But this calling will hopefully give us a congressional hearing so that we can reach these key decision makers and tell them about our suffering and show them exactly what's happening. We don't want them to keep calling this a tribal fight, ongoing crisis, but this is an ethnic cleansing that's so planned, well planned and organized, and you can see from the reports that we have, but they do not have. And I'm hoping that friends from churches, from our community who will listen to this audio would do just that, the 2-minute call-in, and express the concern about the killings of the Banyamulenge.
So you have shared that with me, and we'll also provide some links that people can link onto that as well. That is really the primary thing that you're asking is just to keep raising awareness. That's what I keep hearing is tell the world, and then hopefully the world will respond, right? The leaders and the government leaders. It's surprising to me, not surprising. It is sad and frustrating to me, more than surprising, that the local government in Congo, South Kivu region, and other areas is not protecting the people. And I'm sure we could spend a long time trying to figure out why that is. But it also is very, very frustrating that the church itself is having a hard time protecting the people, and maybe not standing up for the people in the way they should. Is there any more that we can do as a church to call the church to account or call the church to action? Is there any more that you'd like to say to the church in this regard?
So this is what I also wanted to challenge the church as a whole. Like in the eastern region of Congo, even within these communities, the Banyamulenge and these other tribes included, we have Free Methodists, we have Catholics, we have a big body of a church, like if you ask me. and who is killing, who is the same members of the same church groups. And this is what I challenge the Free Methodists in particular. What happened to teachings of reconciliation? Where is their presence in this matter? Like, whether it's humanitarian crisis, I'm sure there are probably some things that were done, maybe I'm not aware, but I wanna say that if we're not seeing any writings about these killings, we should be hearing it from church at least. If any, you know, if it's not happening here, at least the church should be talking about reconciliation, should be happening. I know Freddy wants to add about this too, knowing that he spoke with these bishops in Congo. But that's my challenge out to them, to make their presence known and do, you know, teach reconciliation, peace, unity, and even do the humanitarian work.
Freddy, what would you add to that, just in terms of what you've heard from people on the ground there?
I'm not a pastor, but I grew up, first of all, I'm a Christian, but also I grew up in the house of a pastor. As I said before, my dad was a Free Methodist church pastor from the time I was born to when he was killed. So I'm quite honest, I'm disappointed in the fact that I think there is the mission of the church is not just on a spiritual level. The church should be involved in everyday life for its members, but also for the world. If the scripture says we are the salt of the world, somehow, without being a theologian, I believe that it means that the church should play a role in making this world a better place to live. So in that manner, I think the church has failed its mission. I told you about 60 Banyamulenge Free Methodist churches that were burned to the ground. These are buildings, and they did not burn these churches without killing the members. Some of the members were killed. My question is, how many reports have we received from this side of the world about this happening? Nothing is being said. If the politicians choose to keep this under the table, making sure it doesn't go out, at least the church should speak, or should have spoken at this point. The fact that we have no report in the Free Methodist Church of these members of the church that have been killed, displaced, number of churches that have been burned to the ground, number of Free Methodist church schools and health centers that have been burned to the ground. None of this is in any report. That is very, very concerning and very even frustrating. The other thing is that we did talk through the African Immigrant Ministries, we did talk to a few pastors in the Free Methodist Church here, mainly to Superintendent John Lane from the Wabash district, Wabash Conference. And he did raise some money in his conference, and he helped those displaced people. And this was back in January of 2020. From then, things have gotten worse, and we would like to see some broader scale, bigger scale intervention from the Free Methodist Church, even on the bishop levels. If one part of the church is suffering, the entire church should come together to help that part of the church in getting back together, getting back in shape, and that's by definition the church. And so we anticipate, we expect the church to play a much bigger role in denouncing these killings, raising awareness, and also providing some humanitarian assistance. Thank you.
Well, that's very clear. That's very clear what we can be doing, and I really appreciate all of your time. I'm going to go ahead and conclude our time here, but this is really just the beginning of mobilizing an effort within our church locally, but also within our conference, within the American church, to the extent that we can put any leverage on that. And then as citizens, just also putting leverage onto our legislators and our local government and that sort of a thing. So thank you. Thank you for sharing what are very, very difficult stories. Thank you for your honesty, for your transparency. And thank you for helping educate us. I can honestly say I had no idea of the magnitude or the scale. And those are stories that absolutely need to be told. So we will be doing what we can do. We're going to mobilize and move forward here. Any final thoughts? Anything anybody would like to say? Closing thought?
No, thank you, Pastor Scott, for being willing to sit here for hours. I know we can even go on if you
absolutely, yeah.
have the time. But just to, put this out and be challenged in a way.
Yeah.
So I thank you, and I thank Freddy and Angelique for taking their time. I know this is what they're doing on the background anyways, to be here too and share. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Princess, for all you're doing, your family. I think you guys mobilized that march last week out in downtown Rochester and tried to raise awareness. Angelique, thank you for your courage to go back and see with your own eyes and bring help and support. That was very courageous, and God was with you, and I know used you. And Dr. Taniki, thank you for spending your time with us and raising awareness as well. Thank you all. I appreciate you all, and I hope to get to know you better and spend some more time with you in the future. So God bless you all.
God bless you. Bye.
God bless you.